right, welcome to the Sales Hustle Club. I am Robert Hartline, the CEO of CallProof, and I'm here to present episode 2 of the Sales Hustle Club. This is a series of 7 videos that we'll be performing for you to help teach you exactly the best practices of the best salespeople that are using CallProof in the field. My hope and wish is to help inspire you to be the best salesperson, field rep that you can possibly be to help grow your business. What I'm going to be explaining to you is a series of best practices from the best sales organizations throughout the industry that you sell in today. Specifically, door-to-door sales for business people. That is who we serve here at CallProof. That is how we help by not only providing the best app in the business to create your routes, to log your face-to-face visits, your calls, your emails, but the follow-up and everything in between to make sure you're optimizing your sales day. As a reminder, the Sales Hustle Club is meeting every Monday at 10 Central. The next Sales Hustle episode 3 is going to be on December 5th on Monday, 10 Central. We're taking a little break for the holidays. All right, let's get this party started. So what I'd like to do, number 1, is cover what we talked about last week, to do a little recap. And just as a reminder, why are we doing the Sales Hustle Club? It's tips and tricks from the CallProof team on how to use best practices in our app. It's also allow us to give us some feedback and improvements we can make to make a better product for you. But this is it. It's about the mindset of selling. It's about what are the best practices in the field from organizations throughout the country and how CallProof and how a mindset shift and how getting alignment with what you're working on really, and it's about setting the selling intentions for the week. And if you think about this, if you were to spend 30 minutes a week and just in the mindset, learning some best practices, writing down information, having a pen, having a paper, and writing down what you want to have done. By setting those intentions for the week, you're going to have the best possible week. It's when we go into the week with no intentions that guess what we get out of the week? We get whatever the week presents. When you write down the goal and you write down the plan, you're setting the intentions into the universe to happen. And when I was out selling for myself, it was the weeks that I had wrote down these intentions that work. It's the thousands of salespeople I have talked to throughout the years that were performing, and they all had some commonalities. You know what it was? They had a plan, they had the discipline, and this is what this series is hoped to develop within you. It's not about being the number one best. It's the journey on becoming the best and what you discover about yourself that you can help to unlock what is possible in sales. Developing your pitch is all about uncovering what the ideal pitch is for you. Now, in many organizations, you'll have someone on the team that is just good at doing those cold visits. They walk in, they have a finesse and style and grace about them that helps convert business. Last week, I talked about how could you discover how to have the best possible pitch. My recommendations was, listen, take top salespeople to lunch, take them to dinner, take them for coffee, do whatever you can to get around many of them. Whether you're doing a ride along or whatever it is, learning that best pitch makes a huge difference. Along with that is understanding the 8 objections that every sales organizations have. Price is too high. Your features aren't enough for the type of business we do. You're not known in the industry. Whatever your objection is, figure out what it is for you to learn. So when you are with a prospect and they give you an objection, you know how to counter that objection with the right statement, because the top salespeople respond to top objections in the same way, and they have a way of creating trust in answering those objections. Sometimes those objections can be handled by coming up front and having it part of the pitch. Every organization is a little bit different, but we talked about that last week. If you want to go back and watch, please do that. I also talked about getting your tracking together. And tracking, all that means is figuring out how to develop your pitch. You have to do it through tracking. How many people did you see today that equal the conversation? And every day you track number of people you talk to that equal the conversation that was positive, and tracking that conversion, because we're not selling. We're trying to convert to an actual contact with someone that would be willing to buy, that I can put on a list, that I can follow up with, and we'll talk about follow-up in a minute. But understand, you must track this. If you want to develop the perfect pitch, go on some ride-alongs, learn from the best salespeople, track your progress, and work on those objections. If you do those things, you're going to be developing your pitch. Goals: 42% more likelihood of achieving your dreams when you write the goals down. Put it on paper. What I talked about last week was getting that accountability buddy. The accountability buddy makes a huge difference in the way you're going to be able to navigate through these goals. Listen, if you are in outside sales, if you are in field sales and you leave the office every day, if you're in outside sales and you're doing door to door and you are by yourself, it is a lonely journey. I have traveled with that feeling before. When you have goals written on paper and you have an accountability buddy, you'll find yourself going all the way. When I say all the way, I mean, if I'm going to start making visits at 9 a.m. and I want to go to 5 o'clock, I will be tempted at 3 to give up, go home, beat the traffic. But there's 2 hours on the clock, 2 hours of opportunity that I could land myself in an opportunity for someone to buy from me. And if you are working with a sales buddy and you're talking with them on a daily basis, you know their goals, they know your goals. They're going to call you out when you're not on track, and you're going to call them out when they're not on track. You're going to increase the income for both of you by working together. Accountability buddies are amazing. You know who else could be an accountability buddy? You're not going to like this one. Your spouse. Yes, you're right. Your spouse. Tell them your goals. Ask them to hold you accountable. Yes, it could feel a little funny, but you know who is the best supporter of you? Someone who loves you. And I could tell you from personal experience, my wife helps me with those things. And being accountable to somebody, it's better than nobody. Find someone on the team that you can be inspired by, that you can both push each other. And goals can be activities. They can be sales. They can be prospects. They can be new prospects. They could be proposals. But keep in mind, that's important. And we also talked about, we have the feature in CallProof Plus to scan business cards. It's an easy function. Go back to episode 1 if you want to learn how to do that. And then we have routes for visiting your clients. Routes gets you in front of 30% more people. I went over step by step on how you can save routes, how you can create routes inside the app on demand and create those. Don't do what a lot of salespeople do and assume they know their route. I've been going to these same people for the last 30 years. I know where they are. No, you don't. You kind of know where they are because you drive there every day or have been for many years. But when you put them in a route, you're going to notice you're going to see more people. You're going to have a more efficient route. Google's a better route decider than you are. Allow Google to tell you which ones to go to, but plan your route. When you plan a route, let's say for tomorrow, you can call these people in advance and maybe get on their calendar so they'll be ready for you to visit. But we talked about routes. I wanted to make sure I recapped that for you from the last episode. Now let's talk about, while we're here today, follow-up statistics. And these numbers are really important. I want to have this sink in for you because on average, High growth organizations report 16 touch points per prospect within 2 to 4 week time span. Why do I tell you this information here? That's what the best are doing. They have created 16 touch points within 4 weeks. Now, that touch point could be a call, could be an email, could be a LinkedIn request, all of the above. But the messaging here with follow-up is most salespeople aren't doing the follow-up work, and it's going to affect your business. And I hope to inspire you through this call today on get re-engaged with your follow-up call process. The most optimum number of follow-up emails to send is 2 to 3. Okay, most of us are doing one follow-up email, but that is just another number to be aware of. 90% of all converted leads are reached by the 6th call attempt. Now, you may be in an organization that receives opportunities via a lead. Someone in marketing paid for some ad or paid for some development of a phone number for you to call with someone that said, yes, I am interested. A lot of people do not call those people right away. You got to call them immediately. 44% of salespeople give up after one follow-up attempt. Look at that. 44% of salespeople give up after one follow-up attempt. 92% of people give up after no sales on the 4th call. 60% of customers say no 4 times before they say yes. Think about that. No, 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 no. Yes. Be persistent, folks. It makes a difference. 50% of buyers choose the vendor that responds first. That tells you when you get that lead coming, you call them immediately. This is really interesting. The test of 433 companies, only 7% responded in the first 5 minutes after a form submission. Over 50% didn't respond within 5 business days. Those who attempted to reach leads within 1 hour are 7 times more likely to have a meaningful conversation with decision makers than those who waited even 60 minutes. On average, it takes 8 follow-up calls to reach a prospect. 50% of email responses occur within 60 minutes. So if you're going to email someone, that's when you're most likely going to get some kind of response. If the recipient is going to reply in an email, there's a 90% chance that will happen within 2 days of the email being sent. Let's get to the real situation here. 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. You go and check into a meeting, you do a cold visit, you got the contact name, you put it in your app, you put a follow-up, schedule a follow-up in the app, and you put that in your app for a day after. That is the best strategy. We'll talk more about that, but always schedule a follow-up in your app to check in because most people are not doing that. Now, these are not our statistics. These are just general statistics in general from cold visits. 25% of salespeople make a second contact and stop, okay? 12% only make 3 contacts and stop, and only 10% of salespeople make it more than 3 contacts. 2% of our sales are made in the first contact, 3% in the second, 5% in the third, 10% of sales are made in the 4th contact, and 80% of the sales are made in the 12th contact. Why does this matter? This means 12 contacts to get someone to sign and buy and make a decision. So before I go deeper into talking about a follow-up, let me talk about notes. When you go visit a prospect and you log that visit, that appointment, whether it's an event form or just the appointment button, you want to make sure you document the visit with good notes. The notes are not for your manager. Now, I know your manager may be nagging you to put notes, but the notes are for you. When you write something, whether in a tablet form or typing in with your phone or by hand, you are telling your subconscious some things. You are literally programming your mind for future action. And so when you're typing in notes, you're going to talk about what you talked about with the prospect. You're going to talk about what pain points did you identify that the customer has with that your solution will solve. who is the competitor they're using, or they may be using some other vendor. But whatever you do, remember that you're talking to you, because you're going to look at these notes at a later time. Because when you're doing your follow-up, you're going to use this information to help better the experience for that follow-up visit. But don't forget this one. What was the pitch that got your prospect's attention? That is huge. If you document the pitch along the way, you're going to start to notice there's some pitches that seem to work and others that don't. But unless you document it, you're not going to have any record to identify that. So you've got the right notes. Then why are we not doing a great job of the follow-up? Well, a lot of it has to do with the value of the follow-up call the very next day, which often never happens. You're going to have a better follow-up call one day after a visit. If you wait any longer than that, you're going to risk the customer just forgetting about that you even exist. So it's so important that you do these follow-up visits timely. And when you do a follow-up call, it is not, hi, this is Robert, I'm calling from CallProof just to follow up. No, bring up the pain point to the customer in a way that you can start an actual dialogue. You want to remind them of the pain that they shared with you during that. Now, a lot of salespeople don't do the follow-up because they've had such bad experiences with other salespeople. They have a impression of sales and they don't want to look like or feel like a salesperson that they've had a bad experience with. And so they try to avoid it. And so they just don't do the follow-up. Also, salespeople are not fully committed to the sales process, focused on cold outreach and discount the value of the follow-up process. You have to do the whole process. And other salespeople are also scared of rejection. And I'm going to tell you why all these things are a little bit silly, because I have been a owner of a company that had a lot of phone calls of people trying to sell me things. I get it today, but not at the volume I had before, because I had a bunch of wireless retail stores and we had all kinds of vendors reaching out to me. And I could not tell you how many vendors, salespeople called me, and I would blow them off for years until I was ready to buy. And this is where the salespeople mess up. I've called him. He's not returning my calls. He's not answering. He's not interested. No, he's busy. She's busy. He's or she has family things. He or she has got other priorities other than you for that moment. But don't make the terrible assumption that they're not interested. They're not interested right at this moment. They have just not made it a priority. Listen, if you talk to any great salesperson that's worth anything, ask them this question. How many times have you done a follow-up call and the person says, oh my gosh, it's so crazy you called. I was just about to reach out to someone to solve this problem. Yes, it happens. That's why we do what we do. We do the follow-up. Like I said earlier, 12 touch points to close 80% of the business. Think about that for a minute. The customer is busy, just doesn't have enough time. They don't trust you or your company you're working for. And that is something you can uncover when the right questions. You ask the right questions, you're going to be able to get that to come to the surface so you can overcome that objection. Last but not least, you're not providing enough value in the follow-up call. And that is best solved by working with top salespeople in your company and learning what do they say in the follow-up call. So let's talk about mastering the follow-up. And inside of CallProof, whenever you're closing out an appointment, there's a button that says schedule follow-up. Put that in for the very next day. I suggest whenever you're doing a follow-up, click that button. It'll sync it to your calendar or your email. If you have some questions on how to sync the calendar or your email, if you need to know how to sync your calendar so when you do a scheduled follow-up, it shows up in your calendar, you can sync your email and your calendar. Just send us an email at support@callproof.com. I'd be happy to send that to you. But when I do a follow-up, the ideal follow-up is not just call them, it's text message, it's LinkedIn request them. It is all of the above. Any which way you can have a virtual reach out to that customer and say, hello. Why do you want to do a email? Well, they may drop your or lose your business card. And when I write an email, I always put in the subject line what I sell. Okay. I may put my company name if it's a well-known name, but I'm going to most likely put the solution I solve in the subject line with a nice message addressing it to my prospect and with a nice note. I want to give them a virtual business card in the form of an email. So when they are ready to purchase, I am there. Now I'm also going to send a text message, which is a few lines of information so they know that I am available in their phone if they want to store my contact information. Last but not least, yes. Are you connected on LinkedIn? Why is LinkedIn critical? LinkedIn is critical because it's going to allow you to connect with them in another place. And it's also a great way to find out if your prospect has moved on to another company, but it's also a great way to comment on their posts. It's also a great way for you to make your own posts talking about the value that you create with your customers and solutions you solve with other people. But I hope that I've shined the light on the fact that by you doing more follow-ups, and the magic number is 12, you're going to be able to unlock more opportunities in CallProof that's going to help grow your sales. Last tip that I'll leave you with before we get off here is this idea. You can go into CallProof, click events, and look at all the events that you've done. Go all the way back since you started using this and ask yourself, do you need to follow up with these customers? Is there some extra steps that you should be doing to reach out to people that used to be warm but have gone cold? It is not going to hurt making a call, making an email, sending a LinkedIn request, going through the process. It's a great process for you to do to maximize your sales abilities and your opportunities to win at this. Please like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube and give us any feedback on how we can help grow your sales. Thanks for watching and have a fantastic sales week.